Hi, my name is Paul, and I've been suffering with severe anxiety, panic and depression for over a year now. And I'm doing this video to help raise awareness and highlight some of the challenges involved with these conditions. I also hope that the video can help others that are suffering with similar conditions and get some useful information out of it. Firstly, I will share my journey so far, and then secondly, I found that it's very difficult for other people to understand exactly what's happening when someone's got panic and anxiety, especially if they haven't experienced it themselves. So I'm going to do a little bit more explaining what panic and anxiety actually are. Lastly, my wife and I Kim are going to do a campaign called Body at Work, which we'll tell you about a little bit later, but that's about getting health and well-being in the workplace addressed more seriously. I hope you find the video interesting. I just want to thank you at the moment for continuing to watch. Okay, so my journey started at the end of September 2015. At the time I was working as a senior property manager at Hamptons International. I won't bore you with the full history because it's quite a long and winded story, and plus I'm actually taking them to an employment tribunal for unfair constructive dismissal, so obviously can't go into too much detail at the moment. What I will say though is that my anxiety and panic were caused by workplace stress. How do I know this? It's really quite simple. At the start, so back in September, I only experienced panic attacks at work, and only really experienced the anxiety when it was anything work related. I was fine when I was at home, going other places, even events that we ran with Dream On, completely fine doing those, so it was just when I was at work. The stress built up really over an 18-month period, and it was relentless workload. To quote my manager at the time, he said it was like 18 months of constantly fighting fires. One morning in September, I got into work and turned on my computer. It's a normal task that we all do thousands of times in our lifetime, but on this occasion it was something was very, very different. As I went to click on the Outlook icon to open my emails, I was just suddenly hit by this feeling of fear, and a wave of emotion just came over me. I started to hyperventilate, and I just felt like I wanted to burst into tears. Now, this is something that you don't really feel comfortable doing in front of a room full of colleagues, but as time went on a little bit, I found it harder to breathe, and I knew I had to get out of the room, so I just headed to the toilets. I thought that'd be the start of a safe place, and that's where it started getting worse. When I was in the toilets, I then started to worry that someone else would come in and would hear me, or because I was blubbing my eyes out. So I needed somewhere where I felt safer, because I was then panicking about other people coming in. So I headed to the disabled toilet, which is in a separate location, and just literally locked myself in there, and that's where I had my first fully blown panic attack. A panic attack, it's a very strange thing, especially when you haven't experienced one before. In your mind you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on and trying to stop it. But the problem is, the more you worry about it, the more you're trying to stop it, the worse it gets. There's different symptoms for different people, but for me, I was hyperventilating, sweating, felt faint, felt like I could pass out. I was literally just wailing and just bawling my eyes out with these just waves and waves of emotion that just kept hitting me. All the muscles in my body just went really tense. And I felt like I wanted to punch something. There was a mirror there and I felt I could just smash it, but thankfully I didn't. Generally, I just remember thinking that something in my brain had snapped, something was broken, and that basically I was going mad. I managed to get on the phone to Kim, and she tried to calm me down as best she could. Obviously, I think she was in Battersea, and I was in East London. So she tried to regulate my breathing and just do whatever she could from her end to try and just get me calmed down. Probably took about an hour to sort of get under control a little bit. And it partly happened, yes, because Kim was helping me regulate my breathing, but also my body was just so exhausted. It literally felt like I'd run a marathon. I managed to get out of the toilet, grabbed my coat, and literally got the hell out of Dodge. I got out of the office and headed home. A day or so after this, had a repeat performance. Same situation, massive panic attack. And in the end I decided I needed a break, so I'd had some holiday time booked, so I brought that forward and just took, it was about 10 days or so off. It was a really weird experience because, as I mentioned earlier, I was fine when I was at home. However, as the year came to a close, there were more events within work which made me more stressed, and then the anxiety and panic grew. One morning in January this year, 2016, I got out of bed, went to the bathroom to have a shower, and my legs just wouldn't let me climb into the bath to have a shower. All they'd let me do was just take me back to bed. And since that day, I've been unable to work, and the anxiety's affected all areas of my life. As I said, the initial triggers, because everyone talks about triggers with panic and anxiety, the initial triggers were related just to work. So fear of someone being on the end of the phone shouting at me, emails that were complaints, just that complete fear of that. But then now anything could spark a panic attack. They just come out of the blue. Somebody could just drop something on the floor and it makes a bang, and it just sends me into panic. The anxiety is pretty constant, and it is with me wherever I go now. I have some places where I feel safe, however it doesn't stop me having anxiety and panic. Going out of the flat is quite stressful. I can be tense, all my muscles tense just walking up the high street. And I worry about meeting people, even people that I know. I worry about bumping into them. Plus I find groups of people really, really difficult, and busy areas really stressful. When there's too many people, lots of noise, it just sends me over the edge. The anxiety also keeps me on edge pretty much all the time, and it makes you very restless. So I could just be sitting on the sofa chilling out watching telly, but finding it really, really difficult to focus on what we're watching. I've also found that even the simplest decisions become monumental. To give you an example, Kim asked me to go and get a card for a friend, something that should be pretty straightforward really, but I ended up visiting 3 shops, and each time I got really stressed because I couldn't choose a card. I was just stood there looking at all of them and couldn't make a decision. So I got myself in a right panic, and each shop I went to I had the same thing, and I ended up leaving each shop without a card, and probably the people in the shop thinking I was quite weird. But yeah, so it's those simple things that you take for granted every day that would take you 5 minutes, 2 minutes, suddenly take you an hour, if you can do them at all. I also try and avoid people where I can, and it's not because people don't care or I don't like the person or anything like that. It's talking about it. It's just if they catch you off guard or if you're not prepared for something, then it really can cause you problems. As I said, simple tasks just feel like climbing Mount Everest. When I was doing CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, my therapist tried to get me to do a diary, of just basic things that I was going to do around the flat, cleaning, cooking, any of the simple little tasks that I had to do that week. But when I was trying to write those things down or put a time next to those things, I physically could not write down a time. And some tasks I just simply couldn't do. I just ended up writing a bit of a list, and then if I could do them, I did them. If I couldn't, I wouldn't. So, for example, cleaning the bathroom, I have a huge block on cleaning the bathroom, which most people have said to me they have as well, so maybe I'm not alone on that one. I would say the panic and the anxiety do make me feel like I'm on a different planet sometimes, a bit of an alien when I'm walking around, and it's also taken me to some very dark places where I feel depressed and basically just a burden to my wife. I really struggle, I really struggle to imagine myself working again, and thoughts of going to work, walking past offices, even seeing people in work suits can raise anxiety levels. Once I was stood in Costa Coffee and there was a chap in a suit in front of me, and I just thought, oh, he's going to take his coffee back to his desk, and then I started panicking about that. Again, very random. And basically the panic and anxiety just makes you feel really, really trapped. It's hugely frustrating because from the outside I look fine. Well, as you see, there's nothing completely abnormal about me, I don't think. And it sometimes then makes me feel like a bit of a fraud, that I do look fine. You know, if you've got a broken leg, broken arm, you've got a big plaster on the bone that's broken, and people can see it and go and understand straight away. Whereas with panic and anxiety, it's hidden underneath, deep down, and that makes it even harder for people to understand and recognise as well. And I find that I'm having to, in my mind, constantly justify myself with what I'm going through, to people and to myself as well. Because they haven't experienced it, some people can judge by what they see, which makes dealing with anxiety and panic very difficult at times, because, as I said, it's that feeling you have to justify yourself all the time. It's not all bad though. I do have good days, like yesterday, and I celebrate those days. And I mean, there's things that we share an allotment, which has been a godsend. So going and digging exercise is good for you when you've got anxiety and panic. So it's a good thing to try and get out as much as you can. Again, that's easier said than done, but it does really, really help. And yeah, it's just stuff really that gets you out of the flat. I found it a lot easier during the summertime because obviously nice weather, you go for a walk, it's a lot chilled. But yeah, winter time in the UK is going to be a bit of a challenge, getting out and motivating yourself to go out in the rain. But it's just something I will try and do. I've had a great help from some therapists, health therapists that have been brilliant. When I first started, I was going to see a lady called Martha English, who does healing and acupuncture, and a lady called Nicole Schwartz. Most recently I've been to see, and she does EFT, which is tapping. Might not mean an awful lot to a lot of people, but it's something that Kim is really interested in, and we'll probably do blogs on that, but I'll probably let her tell you about that because she knows a bit more about the science behind it than me. But yeah, so Nicola does EFT and hypnotherapy. So she's given me a recording to listen to every day to try and help get my subconscious brain back on track and thinking positive things rather than anxious things. My GP's also been great, NHS GP. She's been very supportive. She's been supporting me through the battle with Hamptons. She's obviously experienced other people with the same issues, so she's been great. And I've also found, because obviously one problem with the anxiety is you're tense whenever you have a panic attack. So my body has literally been tense, probably say nearly every day for a year, and that's basically screwed up my muscles in my neck and shoulders, to a point where it was literally, well, it was blind agony really. But we got a friend that owns Fran Keogh, who runs the massage centre in Chiswick, and one of his chaps, Thomas, has been brilliant at helping relieve the tension and stress there. So we're working on that, and we're winning, which is good. So I've got some great people helping me. I've got friends that are supporting me that I know are there. Again, like I said, it's really, really hard for other people, I mean, even my wife, Kim, to understand what I'm going through and what's happening. So, you know, but it's great that people are there and supporting me. Kim herself, she's probably been the best. And when you get married, they say in sickness and in health. But she's tirelessly searched for new treatments or ideas to help me. I frustrate the hell out of her because simple things, or what she thinks are simple things, for me feel like a huge challenge. So, you know, I've really struggled to sometimes do the things, but I really, really appreciate the fact that she's there and trying, and we've got this amazing array of tools now that we can use as and when I can. One thing we do talk a lot about is the will to be well, and that is a big problem with anxiety, panic and depression. In my mind, I can say that I want to be well, but then physically and mentally the anxiety actually stops me doing things which can help me, which is incredibly frustrating, and then gets me panicky and anxious, and it's just this vicious circle that you always find yourself in. I do know though that there will be a time that I'm well, and I still feel I've got something to give to this world, whatever what it is, I don't know, but it's partly why I'm doing this video, is to help others really with what they could be going through as well, and educate people. And yeah, there's one question my CBT therapist always used to ask is, have you ever had thoughts of hurting yourself, ending it all of that? And I'm happy to say no, never. Still happy to be here. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. Or I say it's just a bloody long tunnel, and it's uphill.